Testing one, two. I think we're live. We are live here at Kendall Projects with Caitlin Bright, the director of TAPS Art Center here in Columbia. We're going to talk to her today about her journey as an art influencer and things we haven't really had much to talk about. We talked about a lot of things, but we haven't had a chance to talk about the stuff that we're going to talk about today. So I'm kind of let you steer this conversation as much as possible. But one of the things I want to start with first is why, from an artist perspective, it makes a lot of sense why people become artists, because they're makers. You're not a maker, but you're a huge lover of art, and so can you talk to us about that? How did this start? How did this journey for you as an art influencer start, and where has it taken you, and give us a background?
So that can be very long or very
well, we got time, so go ahead and do your thing.
Always interested in art. In high school, I fancied myself an artist, and I thought I would go to art school.
Okay.
And then it was actually, I think it was impressed on me, like, if you get an art degree, what are you going to do? And then I was like, So I had like a little bit, like a few.
So when you were younger, you were a maker for sure. You were.
Yeah. I dabbled.
Okay.
I don't know. I was good at drawing and painting, and won the art awards for my high school.
Okay. All right. And so there's some similarities between our experience, how we've started off.
Yeah. And then went to college, and then actually took a art history class. And was like, I think I want to study art history.
Where was that at? Where was college?
USC.
USC,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did my undergrad. I studied under Brad Collins.
Okay.
And then my parents were not happy, but not thrilled. And they were like, fine, make it work. And I was, I'm stubborn, so I was like, fine. And but I think it was also a combination of adventurous spirit. I had this useless degree that I was like, okay, I'm going to hit the road. So I went to Philadelphia.
Did you get it in art history at USC? Okay.
Yeah. And so just a general art history degree, but it really kind of fueled the fire of my interest in art and my interest to be in the art world. I think if you go to an art school, there's just that constant energy. And it's a complete spectrum of terrible people that are very disinteresting to completely inspirational people that you meet and get excited to be alive about, because you're like, this person also exists. They're amazing.
Right. It's finding common ground is an inspirational thing for sure.
Yeah. And then that kind of puts a fire under your butt to go see more. So I also was into music and pretty social, and so my roommate and I decided right after college to move to Philadelphia without any plan, but then I ended up over some time got a job at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and so that was it's funny because this could be really long, but so the PMA Philadelphia Museum of Art was what I thought the construct of art was.
Okay.
And so it was art is in museums, art is in departments, art is compartmentalized, art is, chronologically ordered, and it started forming it also forms your hierarchical understanding of importance based on how art is presented, either chronologically or importance of media. Right. And it was so I started to develop that this is the end all be all. But I was working in the modern and contemporary department, and they were realizing that I was a little more of a social butterfly of professionalism. I liked to dabble, and then the Philadelphia Museum
cross-pollinate.
Yeah. And they were like a giant family to me, which didn't make any sense because they should be snooty and
live up to the stereotype.
Yeah, but they were so they created a system where every Thursday I could intern in each of the departments to learn what I wanted to do, and which was amazing. And then I joke that I'm like the Forrest Gump of the art world because each department like produced some crazy thing. Um, like in the
Because of you, or
no, I just happened to be there when
there?
some like crazy historical thing happened.
Okay.
Like they got an X-ray machine when I was working with the conservation department. They're like, "Come in, we're going to X-ray the first painting for the first time." And I was like, "Awesome, cool. I don't know what that means, but okay." And so they got this Pope painting by David, and they wanted to see the underlaying,
Yeah,
the
the underpainting.
underlayers, and like the sketchwork.
Yeah.
To study like his process. But on a side note, one of the biggest um, questions was the coronation of Napoleon about him because he has a very flat perspectival background normally with like like the oath of the Horatii. And then so here comes the coronation of Napoleon, and it's this expansive space, and so there's always been this theory that
somebody else did it.
There's a famous perspectivalist that he was friends with that did the undersketching for the wherever he was his coronation was like in Chartres or whatever,
Right.
or maybe it was Notre Dame. But yeah, so they X-ray this painting, and the sketch signed by the perspectivalist is underneath the
Really?
Pope head by David, and they're all screaming and yelling in there, and like,
wow,
yeah.
So that's a big discovery.
She was like,
that's huge.
And like, I remember she was like, "You are experiencing history," and I was like, "Yeah, I don't fully understand." But yeah, it was super amazing. But so things like that, like, kept happening in each of the departments, like, where they're like, "This is abnormal."
So you're coming with like you became almost like this rabbit's foot even for them, maybe.
I don't know. I think I just like
you lucked out.
I just was like the happiest fly on the wall. Yeah, like, and I think they all just like enjoyed having me around. I got to work with the exhibition design department a lot, and I thought that's where I wanted to go. So it was like most of my interest. But during that time, they got to. I think there was like a toss up in. It was. I think it was maybe even a pivotal point in exhibition presentation. And
what year was this? What
2002 to
okay.
2004.
Okay.
Yeah. And then so just working on, we did Manet and the Sea exhibition where it wasn't, um, they really thought about the immersive experience, and that's I think where that seed planted for me was like thinking about the whole visitor experience and telling the story and 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 all like a complete sensory experience in the narrative. And so the exhibition space, the temporary exhibition space at the PMA had a lot of customizable components. It was just a giant, like almost like big box Walmart size space that they would break out and like they put up temporary walls, lower ceilings most of the time. But this time they decided to vault the ceilings, and they painted the walls this like kind of slate blue green. So it was kind of it didn't cross over to set design in the sense that it was evoking, this oppressive feeling of the ocean, of the sea, like creating that feeling of being enveloped but in expansiveness. And it just was so amazing. And like each of the paintings was hung low.
So it had this huge space above all the work too.
Yeah, and it was so powerful. And so the low paintings I think created a horizon line that, again, not in a set design way, but in a just in a psychological way, kind of was
more conceptual.
Yeah, it was conceptually rendering like the like galley of a ship.
Okay.
But not like it just like made it created like a like cross-pollinating experience for people because a lot of the paintings were of ships and seas and monsters and stuff.
And so that had a big influence on
it. Really did, yeah. And then we worked on the Salvador Dali retrospective right before I left, and that too was so much fun because they got to get really weird, and so because that experience happened so young, it stayed with me and it planted a seed on like telling a story and creating a narrative. But I don't think I realized it then because I was kind of in training mode, so I was like, this is how things are. And but so we worked on like we worked on exhibitions. I started getting my understanding of structures in the art world, but I still was really naive about anything. And then Modern Contemporary Department told me to apply to the Peggy Guggenheim Museum internship program. And so I was like, okay. And then I got in, which was really exciting. And so I went there. And it was just,
So that was your transition from Philadelphia to New York.
no.
That was still
Italy.
in Italy. Okay.
Yeah, the Peggy Guggenheim in Venice.
Okay.
But yeah, so Philly to Venice. And then I spent like seven or 8 months in Venice. I worked at the Peggy for 3 months, and then afterwards I transitioned to the Venice Biennale. I worked at the Australian Pavilion and some odd jobs. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah.
Keep talking.
Okay.
So
like,
Venice.
Yeah. So Venice kind of opened my eyes to the Peggy.
So what was the difference between going from Philadelphia to Venice? Like the family, was it still that family thing, or did it? How was it different?
Yeah. I mean, everyone in Venice is still some of my best friends.
Cool. So it wasn't a big.
And I think that I forced people into my weird social professional families.
Okay. Do you do that on? Do you? Does that, well,
I think it's just no matter how like down or like disenchanted I might seem, my love of humans continues, and I think that's what like I just become I become a fan really fast of like people I meet, and then I think so I open up really fast and like I don't know, I form big relationships really fast. But I think also in Italy it was because it's Italy and it's kind of like um, the Peggy is like art summer camp for the social elite, and I was like the one poor person. Like it was a.
So was it like I'm just happy to be here? Was it like that, or you were just you went in with this like I'm just happy to be here? I'm gonna be a sponge.
No, I was like I deserve to be here.
Okay,
I earned it. Yeah, no, but everybody was somebody's son or daughter in the internship, and that was also an awesome experience because the Peggy staff were amazing, and there were so many just like special moments like that they included me in.
Sure.
We had a Jackson Pollock No Limits exhibition, and the registrar and the conservator there. What was his name? Paul. Yeah. So like I got to check in all the Pollocks, and it's really fun because you have to when you're doing like the check in for the registrar, and you have to like take like the laminate images and then compare them, and you circle on them anywhere there's maybe a tender spot, or you have to confirm damage so that when you give back this like $10 million painting,
there's nothing wrong with it. You got it. You're giving it back out. You got it.
Yeah. But then like getting that hands-on experience with the registrar and the conservators about what to look for, and like really like piece by piece, like especially with the Pollock paintings, like
they're probably falling apart.
well, the latex paint, yeah, some of it is cracking. So there was like some of it that like you have to say with like shrinking and expanding from temperature. Everything's been uh, temperature controlled now for like 50 years or however old he is. Um, but it was just like pointing out things that on such a minute level, like they look at the integrity of this bumblebee that's been that died in the paint, or this or these like pollen bits that died in or that coagulated in the paint when he was making, or like the cigarette butt, or this like bolt that maybe is loose, but it's been identified that it's loose. So all the bits that you like don't
Really?
see because you're looking at the whole action of the painting,
Mm-hmm.
but each of those things has like a texture that adds to your visual experience.
Also, too, they become even. I guess we don't think about this, but they have their story in themselves. Like,
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
and then it turns out some of them he placed, like some of it wasn't action painting. Some of it was, maybe a little more ritualistic, where he was just putting things in there. So it was object placement, and he was thinking a little bit more. Because I know for me, I tend to question Pollock, because I'm like, he threw paint on the floor. So, come on. But there actually was like, it's the same. What's it? The like, oh, yeah. It's the same as like a dance or something like that.
Yeah, I've written about this my own process. Was more influenced by the seeing, and when I was in art school, seeing him paint.
Yeah.
The action of that and how that influenced me initially. Of course, Paul McCarthy then, but
Yeah.
that I was like, I want to do that. I don't necessarily care about what I make when I'm doing it, but I want to do that.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's much more of a dance. I
Yeah.
definitely agree with that 100%.
But it's the same thing where you're seeing something, and whether it's completely conscious, you don't know, it's not. But there's something that's motivating your psyche, and it's that process that's speaking to you. And then you, as yourself and your individual, will work that process out.
Yeah.
We'll get to, this could easily become like a 40,000 hour podcast, but
Sure.
we can easily get to instances in Columbia, South Carolina when that doesn't happen,
Sure.
when the emulation period doesn't end. And that's something I think that we need
We'll
to
get to
address.
that. We'll totally get that. So back to the
Peggy. It was a great experience. It was like this eye-opening experience about the hierarchy of the art world, which I was a little bit like weirded out by.
Were you naive about it going in, or
I didn't understand. But then naivety worked in my favor there, because I didn't understand that I was talking to like a prince or something like that, and I was like,
Prince,
I like hot dogs. You like hot dogs? And like I didn't. And it was fine, because I think people assume a lot. I mean, I think they think if you're there in the first place, then there's nothing to worry about. And I was like, cool, yeah. And it was just an 8-month long adventure in the art world. And then working at the Biennale was really amazing, and seeing those giant projects get made was just amazing. Like, it's just like, it was inspiring to see to see countries put so much energy into creating this display. I mean, the criticism is the display is for the 1% of the world, but I think a lot of people travel to the Biennale and like see the art, and definitely poor Italians go there.
Really,
So,
really.
Yeah, it's like a very, very visited event.
All right, well, I'm going to change your.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
So there was like lots of adventures and lots of like just crazy parties and and just
So
magical
8 months,
moments.
that's all you were there for? 8 months?
Yeah.
Wow, that's fast.
Yeah, but when you're 24, it's like
True.
1,000 years. But yeah, and it was 8 months because around month 7, um, that's when I was like starting to gather my thoughts and think about career and think about the future, and having the PMA experience and the Philadelphia Museum of Art experience, and then working at the Peggy, and then working at the Biennale, I started realizing that I wanted um, each of the things. It started clarifying that I didn't want to focus on being a curator, because that's what I was learning from working at Modern and Contemporary and um, the Philadelphia Museum of Art. It's like, oh, and then you become a curator. And then I was thinking maybe a registrar would be really fun. But then I realized I need some more like people, like interfacing. And then I realized that I needed more experience. So I left to come back to South Carolina to my parents' house for base camp, because I needed to start doing research on grad school.
Okay.
And and that took about a year to get everything ready and like apply to schools. And,
So that's 2005, 4 or 5?
No, 2006.
6, okay.
So yeah. So yeah, 24 was in 2005 because my birthday's late. Um, and So yeah, 2006, 256, I was here, and then so no, it was actually a year and a half, because then I left in July 2007. But yeah, I got into NYU for an arts administration program.
Is that Steinhardt too? Is that
Yeah.
Steinhardt? Okay.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, I went to NYU as well, and we were there at the exact same time. I think those graduated 2008. Was that
2009.
No, so you were.
Yeah.
I was there a year before you,
Yeah.
and then you came. Okay, all right. So you get into NYU. You moved back
Yeah.
to New York City, and then what was that experience like at NYU? Can you tell? Was it?
It was good and bad.
It was good and bad?
Yeah,
Okay.
like it kind of clarified more, because it definitely NYU opens a lot of doors. It introduces you to a lot of people.
Yeah, it's the hub for sure.
Yeah, and like their curriculum, I think they understand is more of a networking curriculum than it is an academic. I mean, like it is a professional curriculum. It's not really an academic curriculum.
Yeah, very much so. Even in the art, the studio art, for sure.
Yeah, and like arts administration is like a practical degree. It's a business degree for art, and it's in no ways. I mean, like there was a lot of theory there that was, unavoidable,
Yeah.
but the practical side of it needed a lot of work. I don't know if it's gotten better or not. I hear sometimes yes, sometimes no. But the point of it is that it's like any grad school experience is a lemonade situation. You got to make your lemonade, because you're probably going to be handed lemons. And if you can't make lemonade, then don't go to grad school.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that was one of the things that I saw from my fellow colleagues, I guess the best word to say is at NYU, were the ones that struggled, were expecting this very like classroom oriented. That we're going to teach you how to do A, B, and C. And you're looking for your vape. So yeah, they struggled with that personal initiative. Like you got to figure it out on your own. You got to figure out what you want to make. You got to figure out how to make it, and you got to figure out why it's relevant in the grand scheme of things. So.
Yeah,
Find your thing, girl. You are no time limit. Find your. Like this always can be edited and. Okay.
Yeah, that was like actually that was one of the things like the.
If you want to sit back and pull that thing in closer to you, knock yourself, get comfortable.
Okay, all right, cool. It's um, Actually, I don't care about TMI. I'm like leaning forward more because I just have cramps.
Yeah, I hear you. My stomach's not being good to me either.
Yeah, so I'm just like pretend or like feigning the fetal position. Um,
Pull that a little closer to you. Pull that mic a little closer to you.
oh, hello. But yeah, that was, NYU had like a couple of things that I called shenanigans on. Like they had a required 3 internships, but you had to pay for the internship practicum, but they didn't get you an internship. You had to find the internship on your own.
Oh, really?
And I was like, I'm not paying to work for another organization for free. And then I created a bit of a stink, and then they gave me an independent study instead. And
Who'd you work for the independent study?
well, I just worked on my like cultural entrepreneurship
Okay.
project, and but I did do some internships. I just didn't pay for them.
Gotcha.
And I worked for Independent Curators International, and and the Guggenheim, because I once you well, no, just I think once you the Guggenheim, yeah, the PEGI program is, well, actually, PEGI and Solomon R, the internship and fellowship program, is like the skulls of the art world.
Okay.
Like once you enter it, you can never leave.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, the Guggenheim's always been really good to me.
Well, were there anybody? Was there anybody specifically at NYU that kind of that you turned to or you used
Yeah,
as a
my
sounding?
graduate director, Sandra Lang.
Okay.
She's one of the founders and first director of Independent Curators International, and she also worked at the Guggenheim and PS1 and like a whole litany of stuff. She's like really, and Vita Schreibman. Did you know Vita?
I want to say that's familiar, but it escapes me now. That's been
And Carlo Lamagna?
yes, Carlo for sure.
Yeah. The 3 of them were kind of like our guiding forces and still are. And they like treat every single one of the students like their own children. And they still check in.
That's cool. Yeah, I occasionally get. That's a great thing about Facebook too. People will find you.
10 years later, 12 years
10
later.
years. It's been 12. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, my kids are turning 10 this year, so yeah, that's that. Actually, I just heard from Beverly Sims.
Who's Beverly?
Beverly Sims, an art sculptor. And,
Oh, yeah.
big dresses.
Yep.
So yeah, she was kind of like my person that her and Peter Campus for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and Peter was like a good, like jolly uncle that came in every once in a while.
He's the best. He's the best. I don't. Yeah, there's. Yeah, I would love him to be my neighbor. You know.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
We always had that, and I had an opportunity to do a couple work for him a little bit on a couple shows that he had. But yeah. So was there so you said good and bad. So what was the? Can you tell me what was you?
Sometimes I hired professors that were terrible and didn't know what they were doing, and they had no checks and balances for that, and then there was no kind of evaluation program for it. And sometimes I think the classes were underdeveloped, and meaning that we had to do a lot of the work in defining our academic experience above and beyond us. Like I absolutely think that you should do the work, but I think in like forming the syllabus, we actually had a protest on one of the governance professors because it was we all went to the director to be like, we're not paying for this class. Like this woman doesn't know what she's doing. And they were like, "Oh God!" And then so I think that we like had some sort of like I forgot what it was. We could make something up, we could take an extra course or something like that. And so those were deficits. I remember I had like a curatorial praxis. I don't even remember what her name was. She was terrible. Unfortunately, I think she's like now like high up in that department.
Really?
Yeah. And people like her too. We had her first year, so I will make.
You'll give her a little grace there. Give her a little grace.
Yeah.
Okay.
She made a lot of mistakes, and she blamed them on us, like collectively the class. And we're like, you didn't plan for your own practicum. And then she like tried to give us bad grades, and again we all went. We're like, she's like giving us demerits. She forgot to tell what's the building called that the cafeteria was in?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I've lived in Barney, for the most part.
But yeah, like she like secured a hallway for us to hang art, but she forgot to actually secure it. So we're just putting up our exhibition that we'd put together, and like the director of the building brought security and told us to cease and desist. And then we called her. She was like, "Oh yeah, I don't think I got permission." And then so I was like, "So we're wheeling the art back to the Barney building, to Steinhardt, and we can't do our project." And then she was like, "Oh, okay, well, we can talk about it, and you can you still submit your papers." And then she gave us a C for not installing our show. And we were like,
Wait a minute.
Yeah. No, I mean,
that's
like,
on you.
Yeah, there was a bunch of, like, type A women in the program, so it wasn't a wait a minute. It was like, okay, you can eat a dick, fuck you, and, it got mean really fast.
But that was just one semester. You had to deal with that.
Yeah. And so there were little things like that. I remember you have to take like a computer course, and like the computer course was like, it wasn't a waste of money.
Log into the lab type class?
No, you had some guy teaching you how to do basic HTML, and like, but it was like so basic. It's like create a website, and like, like carrot table in carrot, carrot tr in carrot, and like we were just thinking like this could have been better if there were like a tutorial and resources, like how to acquire, like how to look for information technology services for the nonprofit sector, or things like that that could be used as skill sets that you would apply to. Because in essence, that degree is training you to be an executive director. Okay. If you went LLC, if you went for profit, it was training you to be a dealer, and I went nonprofit, so it didn't make any sense. So there was like a few things where I was like, this is a waste of my time.
What about good stuff? What about some of the things that you still fall back on today?
Any of our like stern, like just straight up business courses were awesome, like leadership theory and like
see, that's stuff we didn't take. I would have loved to do stuff.
It was really
maybe not so much now, but
they work with the Harvard Business School and have like just all these case studies. So it was just like a whole semester of reading case studies and evaluating the like institutional health and decay of a bunch of different organizations at varying levels of like varying sizes. And I've gone back to that so many times. And then our governance class, not governance, our cultural policy class was really awesome. And then they do this amazing practicum. It's a cultural intensive in the Netherlands, in Berlin. And that was amazing. And so we do 3-week long, or maybe it's a month long series where we just meet with all these cultural producers and administrators in Utrecht and The Hague and Amsterdam and Berlin and like Rotterdam. Well, we went everywhere, and talk about the pros and cons of government support and private support. And because like the models are flip flop, like the United States is mostly private support, and then the European model is mostly government support. There's pros and cons to both, but that opened my eyes up big time. And that also opened my eyes up to the concept in the Netherlands. They changed, I guess, their constitution to include cultural entrepreneurship. And so everything that they do is about like furthering the economic solvency um, of all like all citizens, and then using the arts as an economic generator.
Wow.
And yeah, and so that like really kind of drove my focus. So when I finished grad school, when I finished grad school, then it was like, what do I do now? And it was just the job stuff. Oops. And so then it was just like the quest to find my place, and that was also really fun.
So this is what 2000. So 2009, you stayed,
2000.
or did you just roll town? Did you get out of town and do base camp again, or did you?
No, I just stayed. Yeah, I floated in like some odd jobs for a little bit, like helping an artist or like doing like little projects here and there. But relatively right after, I got 3 jobs. No, 2. So then I went back to the Guggenheim and I did like an independent project with the HR department where we were trying to systematize a process so that we could create an automated internship program. And so it was just like helping with information management, which at the time I was interested in doing. And then I got a job at Allen Stone Gallery in the Upper East Side as a marketing associate / we didn't know what I was. And it was just like helping to organize. And it also was like letting me get a glimpse into the for-profit side of art. But then it turns out not really in that respect, because like when your first job is like such a blue chip gallery, you're not really learning anything because it's a family run organization, and
It's
like
insider.
yeah, and like it just actually so Claudia Stone is who I work for, and she still is like one of my mentors, like one of the people I look up to. And again, we became like such insane family. I still go up for Christmas dinner and stuff like that.
Really?
And like uh it was just a really amazing experience in the long run. But also like super like such a strange, weird window into that art world, and that I think I will cherish forever, because it was just Alan was really he was really insistent on like art as a family member, and so when you get a piece of art, um, you should invite it into your home, and it becomes a part of your home and not just a decoration on the wall.
That is such a great. Oh man, if I could, yeah, if there's something I could teach somebody. I love that idea.
Yeah.
Was that new for you to have somebody that's that?
I think it vocalized what I had been, how I feel and why I was so driven to stay in the art world. Because I realized like there is like, it's not, it's not a formalized relationship where language and exchange, well, it is kind of exchange of ideas. Like this presents, it's a static thing, but it presents new ideas every time you look at it. And that's a conversation. And
That's yeah, and I think that's the kind of. I think that's a.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Oh man, that's what art's supposed to do with people. That's that idea that art is something you hang on your wall as decoration. It grinds my nerves because that's what art's supposed to. You're supposed to engage in it. It's supposed to make you think all the time.
Yeah.
Like that's why.
Yeah. And then varying degrees of think. Like, it doesn't
Yeah,
have to be profound every time, but like it will at some point, you know? You'll be like, huh, I get that. And, you know, I think that's like part of existence. But yeah, so I cherish that about that space and just the art there. Like, um, they just have so much art because Alan was a collector. There's a documentary called The Collector about him. It or he was like an art hoarder. Like, it was crazy. There was like we were after he passed away, we were inventorying the estate, and I think we were at 36,000 objects. Like,
wow.
yeah, it was crazy.
That's
I
a lot.
mean, and that was like an arbitrary, like I
Was that
don't
a
know where.
warehouse in Jersey somewhere?
In upstate New York, yeah, and so many amazing things, and but so with that, one of his best friends was Joseph Cornell, and like he did the boxes,
Okay.
and they're actually toys that he made, and so Alan and Claudia were like, yeah, you know, shake the sandbox and get the ball in the hole, and I was like, you know, like, this is priceless, and
Yeah,
um,
don't dress for the touch.
yeah, like my museum upbringing, I was like, and then she was
Yeah.
like, oh no, I mean they were very careful and they had conservators and stuff like that, but
But
you
this is what it
know,
was made for. You got to do it.
yeah,
You got to.
exactly, and like there's a story behind it and there's love behind it, and I always thought that was really great, and then like so that experience at Allen made me realize that I didn't want to like pursue a career at the Guggenheim, and actually like abruptly was like, I gotta go, and maybe burned a little bridge there, but whatever. And then after that, I got a job at a gallery in Brooklyn called Momenta Art.
I know.
It's like,
Yeah, I know. I'm familiar with that.
and it was again like they became families so fast, and
Restart the timer. You keep talking,
okay,
folks. I'm not checking my phone. I'm keeping us on time on the cameras. So if you're watching this, I'm not. I'm listening. Go ahead. Go ahead.
um,
So you left in New York, got momentum.
yeah. So then I
Memento.
was working at Allen Stone and Momenta, both like part time, just because I had to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Um, and and then that kind of clarified. So getting a job at Momenta Art, I realized that's what I wanted to do, and it became really clear. I wanted to run a nonprofit art gallery that focused on social issues and supported underrepresented artists. And so the ethos was discovered. And for a long time there, like Memento was awesome. It just like ended in like a blaze of like I can't believe this is all happening glory, because it was a deconstruction of, well, actually no, I think it was me and the board were navigating a coworker's like the biggest midlife crisis a single person um, has ever experienced, with the understanding that we all go through it and we're all like super empathetic and sympathetic to somebody who goes through that, like anybody who goes through an existential crisis, but specifically to that magnitude. But then it became clear that it wasn't like a functioning workspace for me, and so I needed to go elsewhere. Yeah, and got everything set up for them, so I wasn't like abandoning ship. I was just like making sure
It's time
that,
for me to move on. I appreciate
yeah,
everything you've done.
yeah,
Leave
and
it as good as you can, but I've got to go.
yeah, then you can take it and go wherever you want with it, and this makes more sense. And like, um, and then right after that, I got I worked for a few artists. Oh, and like in the middle of all that too, I also had like cancer, and I had to deal with that real fast.
Oh, there's cancer. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's. Do you want?
um,
Do you want to? Do you want
oh yeah, no, I just had thyroid cancer. I had to have my thyroid removed, and so far so good.
Okay, well that's
Yeah.
good.
But it kind
Was
of
it,
all culminated at the same time. Like my job exploded, and then I had like, and then I got sick, and then it started making me think about
how
like,
long were you sick? Sick.
well, not till after. It was making me um, I had like a lot of fluctuation. So the tumor was like causing me to produce more thyroid hormone. So I was going up and down. So sometimes I couldn't get out of bed, and then sometimes I was like about to have a heart attack, and um, like fluctuating in weight and losing my hair and stuff like that. But that was just like periodic. But then afterwards, it was like heavy because the dip that you go through, the hormonal dip when they're trying to like steady
Balance
your,
you.
yeah, like was a nightmare. Um,
And you were still in New York during all this?
yeah, yeah. It was the last, and that played a part in coming back here. But then my mom also got sick. It was like a, it was
Perfect
like a
storm.
long, yeah, it was like a long story. But yeah, and then I just decided that I needed to. I think I just needed to like regroup and find myself, and like find a balance. And for some reason, I had it in my head that that'll happen in South Carolina.
Okay.
And but like before that too, like um, a bunch of, it was great because like New York has been so supportive and um, like caring, and so like after I left the gallery, and I didn't have a game plan. It was like that um, severe that I was like, I'm gonna jump off of this sinking ship, and I'm hopefully will like land somewhere. But yeah, like the like artists reach out, and we did a bunch of um, short-term and long-term projects. So then I started like doing all these piecemeal, like kind of like uh, without it being formalized, like business consultation or like
Okay.
helping people get organized with their artistic practice and with all the like nitty gritty stuff that I'm good at, but that they get really stressed out by. And that worked pretty well.
Like what? Can you give me like what would you
Oh
like
yeah,
if I what would
creating
okay.
budgets and like expense reports and logistics planning and a marketing plan.
And were those for established artists that are already making and showing a lot of work or
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, and like they just don't know how to do that stuff.
Okay. They're just studio.
Yeah, and yeah, like really established artists. Which is funny because I was like, really? Okay, all right, that's a job. Um, oh, and then the Ed and Murat from Moving Image called me for some drinks, and they're like, "We like you. Come work for us." And I was like, "Done. You guys are family now." Like,
And you're still involved with them.
yeah,
Still.
yeah. We're taking a break because the art markets.
Weird.
Yeah, and when you're a niche or when you're a niche art fair, it fluctuates dramatically based on the like total integrity of the art market.
Yeah.
And so when there's so many things in flux, like there's no reason. We did a poll with the galleries that have been really dedicated with us, and they needed to deflect their interest into other arenas. And Ed was really smart, and he was like, there's no reason to provide something that if there's been a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And so he's just refocusing the idea of moving image to more of like a piecemeal experience, which I think is going to be really great.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about getting back here. When did
Oh
how did
yeah.
that go down? And because when my experience with taps, I think it would have been 2013 was my first, kind of. I think I did a show in the windows, and then
Yeah.
I had a couple years in between that, and then I read in Free Times that you had taken over taps and restructuring. How did that happen for you? What did
It was super random actually. I guess I guess Andy Smith randomly sent my resume over to the building owner, or like sent my contact information or something, or yeah, or maybe like linked. I don't know what he did. Anyway, he like sent my contact information. They called me and they're like, "Hey, we have this like space, and we think you might be interested." And at this time, I had like to transition down here. I got a research job, so and it had nothing to do with art. It was kind of nice and interesting, but I could be anywhere. So if I could be anywhere and then have this research job, I was going to come down to South Carolina and like kind of rest and relax and wear caftans and drink tea in my tomato garden. That's my fantasy.
That's it, right?
Yeah. And so I was like, I don't know, kind of like the slow pace. But then I met with them, and then they showed me the space. And I think like that if you've been in New York and space is such a commodity, and then when you open the doors and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's huge building. Yeah, right.
I was like, oh, the potential. So I said yes to take it on. And then it was just like one thing after another where I was like, oh my God. Just, I don't even know where to begin on the nuttiness that is the Taps Art Center. But it was a slow boil. Like, I understood what I wanted, and then I understood what I wanted wasn't what could be down here. And then I opened I opened the doors to any possibility, as long as I was able to instigate people to really critically analyze what they're doing. Because I think one of the endemic issues in Colombia is people are like, I made it, it's wonderful. And it's like, yeah, you did. You made an object that now is in existence and is cluttering this already cluttered earth. And did you make it just to make it? Are you like, is it that caveman response that I was here, my handprint is on the wall? Or are you trying to talk to people in visual culture? And if they couldn't answer that, then I needed to move on. But if they could answer that, then I think that there's potential for the community to engage and be enriched by that cultural experience. And then, so that was pretty much the basis of.
Well, let me rewind. You said something I want you to unpack for me. When you realized you wanted it to be this thing, when you realized it couldn't be that thing.
I think I just wanted to replicate what I knew from New York, and I can't do what happens in New York and South Carolina because it's two different places.
I get that, but how? And can you
I think it was just like, like having exhibitions and like, critical dialogue. I mean, so on the micro, everyone wanted me to have a buffet every single first Thursday. And I was like, why? Because like in New York, it's just like free glass of wine. You walk around till 8 p.m. and you go to dinner.
Yeah.
And like,
there's a Pabst. There's a cooler of Pabst right there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Help yourself or donate $2.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so like micro instances, that's how it was different. Like people were actually like, "There's no food here," and I was like, I mean, there's still no food because I'm like, go fucking buy it.
Right.
I'm broke.
Right. Yeah.
But like, but there's, and then like the macro instances was the what I thought like panel discuss, like things like that don't work for the space. And so, and then the constructs that were there, don't work for the space.
Like what? Like
yeah. Trying to think of what was not working. Oh, I know. I mean, just so the space itself was being underused, and the constructs that I adopted weren't good. So that's a twofold thing. So like me having my gallery or my New York experience of like minimally hung exhibitions. So that's like the biggest thing that I found out was really bad. I wanted to keep the whole space bare and then have very sparsely hung walls in the center so that there would be points of reflection, points of contemplation. But that was met with this like resounding like, where's the rest of the art? And I was like, well, this is the art. Why do you need more art? And I realized that I can judge that, but that's not going to make me any more successful. And I just think that it was a cultural reality. Is there's like cultural normative psychology in Colombia. People like filled walls. They like filled space. Uh, they like things to cushion the unknown. And so that changed the way that I presented work. And then that made me realize that we can't just survive on art exhibitions and visual culture. And the space is conducive to lots of different um, cultural experiences. So then that launched the like music series and the performance series. And then that started making me explore and experiment with like ticket sales and splits, and then creating like the incubator program so that people keep having the ideas of wanting to become like a producer or a promoter or a musician or a freelance dancer or a freelance artist. So a lot of those skill sets were things that we could nurture. Um, So that's the direction we've gone in now, from all of these experimentations with like, how do we access the Columbia community? So the whole basis, and it happened pretty fast, was like, okay, so I have a lot of space and there's studios and I get that and I can have exhibitions, but that's not what this community wants. This community wants like a well-rounded cultural experience, epicenter to have base camp for a lot of like socio-political, socio-emotional needs. And so over the last 4 years, that's what we've been creating um, to some extent. Except most of the time it's a giant failure because we're so poor.
So, what one of the things you just said was really interesting. Is I remember going. I don't know where it was. It might have been the Lower East Side. Going to this one's like a storefront gallery with Tony Mattelli's was a Tony Mattelli sculpture, and my wife went with me, and we walked in. It was just one sculpture in the whole space, and that was the
Yeah,
only
yeah.
thing it is. But yeah, so that was so. My wife, me being an artist and an art fan, she was like, "We came all the way down here just to see this thing." I was like, "Yeah, this is a Tony Mattelli sculpture. This is a new, brand new. I got to see this." You know,
Yeah.
talking about that. So, and then, so what does contemporary art in comparison to the rest of the world? I think what does contemporary art look like in Colombia or even South Carolina?
And that was the other thing too, is that there's a lot of makers that don't have a platform that want to experiment. And I think I remember from an art history class, I think it was my realism class, but it was like uh, the advent of the movement of realism, and Baudelaire said, "Be of your times," which means don't mimic the makers of the past. And it stuck with me. I mean, that was like undergrad, and so it stuck with me.
That is that was a big part of my
yeah,
my training, if you will. So keep talking.
yeah. It's like so it's driven me to try to find the makers in Colombia that I think have good ideas that need to be exercised. And so far, we've been really great. I think that your exhibition is what was the catalyst for a lot of people to come in with zany ideas. Like, and I didn't understand if you so just say the word zany, but like, they would come in with a little bit of humility of like, ah, this can never be done. And, you know, like after you, John Kammerer, came in with the symphony from the Pacific Ocean. I mean, like, it was that he saw the possibility. Yeah, he created that algorithm that pulled. There's uh, 26 buoys in the Pacific Ocean, and each of them is collecting 17 data sets. And so he created an algorithm that pulls all of the 17 data sets um, um, from the 26 buoys, and then and then the algorithm translates it into a musical note that's playing in real time. And then so the 17 data sets mean, and so each of the 26 buoys adds up to one of 17 different notes playing at any given time.
Wow. So when you walk into space, it's symphony.
Well, so he came in and he was like, so I have this algorithm and it's the ocean playing in real time. And he was like, I thought we could set up some speakers. And um, I was like, well, I think we could think bigger. I was like, I feel like that's something that, and then I was drawing from the Manet and the Sea experience of like, how do you envelop somebody in this experience without turning it into an overt statement about theatricality? And then but I was like, I feel like we should be like in a yurt listening to this or something. And then he came back and was like, I think we can build a yurt. He was like, why don't we build a geodesic dome? And I was like, okay, do we know? And yeah, we got the PVC, we cut it down, we built this giant 20 foot, 24-foot wide and 20-foot tall geodesic dome over the circle desk, installed the 17 speakers in a surround sound. So the whole dome played the Ocean Symphony when you went in. And like, it was awesome.
Yeah, I remember
that. And but it was instigated from us giving your idea
yeah, I remember when
attention.
I think I remember it was the first time we met, and I talked to him. I got this crazy idea to do this Wizard of Oz thing, but I just want to, maybe just because at that time I was like, yeah, I'll just do it in the windows or something. And you're like, no, let's do this whole thing.
Yeah.
And your, that idea, like giving me the freedom to say, you can do whatever you want to with it.
Yeah.
Was like, I can, and it was like, wow, so we'll do this. And then every time we had a studio visit or whatever, you ask these really great questions for me to think about. And you're talking about the artists and the makers, and that's something I seek out for myself, even in the studio all the time. Like I'm always, and I talk about this a lot, is that being able to obstruct yourself or challenge yourself or ask the what ifs that are almost in your mind at the moment impossible. I think that pushes you forward as a creative person. Yeah. And I don't think there's a lot of people, a lot of artists in Colombia or people that I know that do that. And I don't know why. I don't know why.
Well, because I think that, as a community, I think we've become afraid of failure. And specifically in Colombia. I mean, I feel like I'm being obtuse, and it welcomes criticism, but I think the basic thing is like this community this is a whole other like 1,000-hour-long podcast, is like creating or deconstructing and analyzing the like social, political, and economic constructs that make up Colombia, because I think it creates a group psychology where it's just about safety first, and then which it permeates everything, where you're like, I have these weird ideas, but I'm just going to paint this landscape because I know people won't think I'm weird if I do that.
Yeah, I struggle with that. I still struggle with that. We talked about this briefly. You may remember it not, but what about my Dorothy project? And you said, and there's certain things you could have done in New York you don't want to do here. Like we're talking about performances and stuff like that. You have to be careful, and I still am careful. My wife's really like, that is really out there. And I'm like, exactly.
Yeah.
She's like, they're not going to get it. And I was like, I still got to do it. I got to make it. I'm getting to the bottom of something that I haven't gotten to before.
Yeah.
But that consideration of painting the landscape is still like,
Yeah, it's difficult because you have to vacillate between being the antagonist of a community and then being the protagonist of a burgeoning community. And I think that there is a growing populace that's asking the seemingly feared question in the South, which is just simply why. And I like being here for that respect. There seems to be a lot of more people that are questioning structures, and TAPS is special because those questions and those conversations are posited through visual and performance culture. And I think it's a more palatable arena to ask those basic questions why. And those whys are anything, political constructs and identity constructs and economic constructs.
and in your willingness to, well, I don't say willingness, but I'll say this, that I believe that your relationship to failure fosters that environment.
Yeah.
Because you've had everything in the world thrown at you, and we're just like, well, if it sticks to the wall, we'll work with it. Let's at least throw it against the wall.
Exactly, yeah. And it's okay if things, and some things have been really disappointing, where the idea was presented so amazingly, and then the presentation, there's a couple of exhibitions, and the presentation was so lackluster that I was like, ugh. And I ended up spending, stayed at the gallery till 5 o'clock in the morning, tried to, get this,
make it better.
Like, great, now I'm the artist for this crazy thing. But then some are even more wonderful than, I was in love with the project idea, and then when the project got realized, it was even more just exciting to see uh, the internal fantasy come to life, just exactly how you wanted it. Like the rare instances when you're reading a book and you envision the character, and then they make a movie about it, and the characters.
It's what was in your head.
Yeah.
Which is rare.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very rare experience. Yeah. Like the idea of visualization, it's something that, especially when I go back and revisit work, and then I see the early ideas from it, and I was like, wow, it did turn out. It did turn out.
Yeah.
It did turn out. Yeah. It's magic even. You're almost like you're watching magic.
Yes.
And I think that's what makes art in that process such a difficult but worthwhile endeavor.
It is, yeah, and it'll for the end of humanity ebb and flow in importance, but it's nice being able to have a skill set that can stabilize it, which I guess is what I understood my career to be after grad school and coming here and then realizing what I'd learned and having the opportunity to grow a program on my own and then realizing the specific needs that people have and that can be generalized and
so what does the future look like? What is now where you're at? I mean, if you want to, you can take this question any direction you want, whether you want to talk TAPS or if you want to offer advice to artists that are making things, and what's the future look like? What do we need? What do we have? What do we need to do?
Yeah, that's a big question. In relationship to TAPS, I think it is just more of the same. I think building this entrepreneurship program and then helping artists get the skill set so they can take it elsewhere and grow. I think if you want to be a producer in any, like maker, producer, artist, whatever, you have to understand how to navigate that talent in the like greater economic ecosystem. And so we understand that at TAPS, and we want to help artists in a greater capacity. Um, I think in this political and social climate, who knows what the future holds? I think the answer to artists is now's the time to do whatever you want. Whether it's the supposition that we're, on the cusp of civil war or anarchy, um, now's the time that you're gonna like have the ability to uh, carve out your existence into what you want it to be. And that's obtuse as I can get it, because there's like nothing like saying anything specific will probably um, exclude someone. So just, I would say, now's the time to be giant failures.
And yeah, jump off the boat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and that's not easy for a lot of people. Like I am still like, I don't know, breaking in that feeling of
Yeah.
I can do. It's all in front of me now. All these things, like I've got to capitalize on them, whatever that means.
Whatever that means. So my dad always told me as a little kid to um, aim for the stars, but be happy however close you get. And it's the same advice. Like, do it and enjoy the process. The end product is like the end product will be what the end product is. It's fine. But it's the whole get it out of you, become a better human, self actualize, like go through your Jungian process.
Yeah.
But do it as opposed to not doing it. And then that'll fester. And then in 20 years, like, who knows what you'll become from that, like, missed opportunity.
Yeah. I'll check the time. Let's see if we got 5 minutes. We got to flip that camera over. So yeah, we'll take a quick little break. I'm gonna change the battery on this camera, and then we'll. All right, that so we're kind of wrapping up here, but I want to ask the question because I wrote it and it might get something interesting from you. So we've talked about a lot of the your approach to telling a story through your process of curating or creating an experience for people. So, is there a dream project? Is there a dream situation that you could describe for us that other than tea and tomato plants, that you could share? Like if I could have, if it could be like if I could have an unlimited budget at Taps, I would do A, B, and C. Or is it not far completely removed from Taps and somewhere in the world I would like to do this and create this? Do you have an answer for that, or for both? Or
Yeah, I would like to recreate the scale of the Biennale, and I know that's like um, with the name's escaping me, and New Orleans, Prospect.
Okay.
Whatever it is, 5 now, whatever. But I definitely have that fantasy of bringing giant projects to life, and especially like seeing like if you go to the Biennale or Documenta or Sculpture Moonster. I just did all of that last year. Sculpture Moonster, and you see these installations and the care in the process. That's something that is really exciting to me. Um, so in the future, I would love to do some sort of large scale, uh, or like create a Storm King, but down here, or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. But also, this is a big project. You know, creating a change in the cultural landscape in Columbia, South Carolina. In 4 years here, there's been a drastic change.
Yes, it has been amazing,
Yeah.
amazingly huge in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's still going.
Yeah. I mean, it just started. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just starting.
Yeah.
People are just this slow, sleepy machine is just waking up, and it's fun being a part of that, which I think is going to be one of my dear and large, cherished accomplishments and experiences.
No matter what.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. You definitely put your stamp on things. Is there anything else you want to say or tell us before we wrap up here today?
No, I think we listen to me speak a lot.
Yeah, I really
stay in the background. This is the
you
rare,
do do stay in the background.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I don't like cameras and I don't like talking, but this has been fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. For those of you that are didn't catch the beginning of it, this is Caitlin Bright, the director of TAPS Art Center in Columbia, South Carolina, telling us how it is today at Kendall Projects podcast. So we appreciate her coming. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right. I'll see you later.
All right. Bye.